kind of join. Cool, awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining, everyone. This is obviously our Teach in the UK webinar. I'm Liv, and I'm based in the Collingwood office at the moment. There's 3 of us on, and we'll be just talking about all things UK, teaching in the UK, working in schools in the UK, and just everything that kind of comes with it, and the journey with ANZ UK, really, over to the UK. So I just want to do a quick, the acknowledgement of country. So we respectfully acknowledge the traditional custodians of these lands, the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung peoples of the Kulin Nation on which we are meeting today. We recognise the continuing connection to the lands, waters and skies, and we pay our respects to elders past and present, and extend that respect to all First Nations people present today. So I can go. My name's Olivia Liv, and like I was saying before, I've been at ANZ UK for a year now, based in our Melbourne office. I'm actually originally a primary teacher from New Zealand, and I moved to London back in 2017, and I did a bit of CRT supply teaching over there, and I actually ended up working in recruitment for a year and a half over there. So that's my bit of my background, and my favourite countries I've been to so far is Ireland and Italy.
Okay, thanks, Liv. So my name's Sid. I work, slight mistake on our slide. I work in our Sydney office and been working there for the last 2.5 years. Have been working with ANZ UK in total for 2.5 years. Originally, probably tell from my accent, from London, was a history teacher there for the last 4 or 5 years. And funnily enough, I'm actually working out of our London office at the moment. So one of the sort of, I suppose, positive things about this job and helping people come over to the UK as we run events, which we'll touch upon a little bit later in this presentation. And that's why I'm over in our London office at the moment, but normally reside in our Sydney office.
And I'm Jack. I'm originally from Sydney and moved over in the last 9 months. So did the journey that many of you are planning on doing. I've worked in our Sydney office for 2.5 years and been here in the London office for 9 months now. And I worked as a teaching assistant before starting university. My favourite countries have been Hungary and Switzerland so far.
Love it. I was going to put a quick poll as well, or just like if everyone wants to let us know where everyone's tuning in from in the chat, but we can keep going through.
So very brief overview of what we'll be covering today. So a little introduction about us as a company and how we sort of started, why the move to the UK is a really beneficial one, both from a teaching perspective but for your personal development as well, what those steps look like, the sort of best time to arrive in terms of the academic calendar in the UK, which different to the ones in Oz and New Zealand, visa requirements, the locations that we work in as a company, what it's like in terms of working in the UK school and those sort of points of difference compared to working in the Aussie system, relocation bonuses, the compliance to get you all set up and ready, the community and Facebook aspects that we look to bring as a company in terms of we run events pre-departure and post-arrival as well, professional development resources, and we'll end with some questions at the end.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Sid.
Little overview of where we're based as a company. So as Liv was saying, she's in our Melbourne office in Sydney. We've got 9 offices across Australia, all the way, so Brisbane, Sydney, 3 offices in Melbourne, office over in Perth. We're 4 offices across the UK that we'll touch upon. We're in Bristol, London, Surrey, and our Newport office in Wales. And then we have 14 offices over the United States as well.
Yeah, and I guess before as well, is everyone a teacher or a teaching assistant, or like looking to work as like a supporting educator in the classrooms as well? So we'll touch on this as well. ANZ UK's values, purpose, and our promises, I guess. Our main, promise and value is that, it's really right educator, right place at the right time. Everyone's got different journeys and what that looks like. So we're really there to make sure that we are accommodating to that and making sure that, we're getting it right and just continuing the exceptional experiences for educators as well as students as well.
So at the moment, we're really having a September push. So if you're moving over in the next 3 or 4 months, we're getting a lot of schools, express interest on Australian, New Zealand teachers, going to primary, secondary settings. And, if you're more so looking to start the academic year, when Australia and New Zealand finishes in December, there's, heaps of long-term and supply, both in September and January. And we do see like a heap of people move over in January as well. So you don't need to worry that just because the academic year starts in September here, there's not going to be any long-term opportunities or like full-time. There's still going to be plenty of opportunities no matter what time you move over. And we'll surely be able to find a school right for you. Summer holidays are approaching very soon. So the academic year is kind of flipped. So we have the summer holidays in from middle of July up until start of September. And it's about a 6-week break there. So just bear that in mind if you are moving over, there's not going to be any opportunities to work then. But while there is lacking work opportunities, there is plenty of opportunity to travel, which I took advantage of last year. And I definitely recommend, blocking yourself out for the 6 weeks and, really enjoying the European summer. It is completely unmatched to anything you've ever done. And educator events. So we do have one pretty much every start of every term, which is, Sid and Olivia will be over at one later in that academic year. And it's really fun. If you're moving over solo, which I did as well, you get to meet, anywhere between 50 and 100 educators who've done the trip themselves. Some will have been there for, a couple of weeks. Some will have been there for, over 6 months. So there's people who are established, who've met people already. And there's also, people who are very fresh, looking to meet people and, make new social groups, look for share houses, which I'll touch on a little bit later as well. And plenty of sporting opportunities to meet people, which we'll, address later on as well.
Yeah, perfect. Quick question as well on the chat. Has anyone been to the UK before? I know I hadn't been there before I moved.
So why teach in the UK? I suppose there's a myriad of different reasons, but we've tried to sort of highlight the sort of 3 key sort of subsections: personal growth, career development, and life experience. I can attest, having taught in both the UK classroom and in classrooms in New South Wales, that they're different enough that you grow in terms of that professional development and learning new skills in the classroom around how to structure a scheme of work and behavior management, but similar enough that it doesn't feel like you're completely starting again. So it's a really nice kind of mix, stepping out of your comfort zone. And I think especially working in the major cities in the UK, developing more of a sort of cultural awareness around, you'll maybe be working in schools that have a higher percentage of students from different backgrounds. And it's just a really nice way of being able to grow both sort of pastorally as well as from an education standpoint. Professional development in terms of the working long-term roles in the classroom as well. Similarly to in Australia, there is a slight teacher shortage in the UK at the moment. So that ability to really, I suppose, push forward in your career in those sought after subjects. We've had and assisted lots of Aussies and Kiwis over the years who have gone over, secured a long-term role and ended up sort of enjoying it and being sponsored by the school, moving up into a sort of senior leadership role over a couple of years, and then being able to transition back into the Australian classroom as a result of that career development they experienced in the UK. And as Jack was touching upon, the life experience as well. You make so many friends and sort of like-minded educators, both at our events, but in your times at the schools as well. And it's a really, I think, impactful experience for everyone who makes that journey over.
Definitely. Yeah, I can run through this. So these are the steps in your journey. So like we said, this is different for everyone and what this timeline kind of looks like. I know some people it can be from like 2 years out, some people going like next week kind of thing. So initially, you have an initial chat, and that will be with either me, Sid, or our colleague Tyler as well. And so you're really getting to know you and talking through any like visa or any questions that you might have. And then from there, we can pop you in touch with our team in the UK. This is all 12 months out from you heading out. So if you're thinking you're going to go over in like January next year, then we can definitely get the ball rolling now. If you're looking to go kind of end of next year, we can definitely have that initial chat now, but probably wouldn't yet pop in touch with the team in the UK till closer to that 12 months period. But yeah, contacting the team, so someone like Jack, they'll be like your arrival consultant, and then they have regular contact with you as well, video calls, phone calls, etc. And then in the background, we have a compliance team as well. So we'll go through compliance in a little bit. But the compliance team over in the UK start there all yet 2 months before you head out. So you're all cleared for work before you leave Australia. That is, yeah, that's the goal. So you're clear for work and going to school pretty much straight away if you want. You'll also have a registration with your UK consultant, so like Jack. And then, yeah, all cleared for work and then in the classroom. So yeah, like we said, that journey kind of looks different for everyone involved, but they are the main kind of steps. When you guys want to run through the
Yeah,
term
so the best time to arrive, so there's a little bit different how the terms are split up in Australia and New Zealand to the UK. There's 3 main terms or 6 half terms. So you get a break every 6 to 7 weeks, which is, also another really good opportunity to get away and travel. But really it's broken up over the major holidays. So there's the summer holidays, which are coming up at the middle towards end of July. And then that goes till start of September. And then it's a half term in middle or end of October. And then, yeah, over the Christmas break, there's a 2-week break as well, which is the end of the first term. And then same as the Easter break as well. So it is split up, reasonably similar, that the holidays are based around the public holidays back home. But the terms are, anywhere between 12 to 14 weeks with a half term in the middle as well. If you want to like try and time your arrival, it's always best to try and arrive like towards the start of a term. But just because if you're not able to do that or not wanting to do that, doesn't mean you can't get long-term or supply opportunities from the start as well. It's just just when the term starts, and we have all our educator events then too. But yeah, arrive at any time and there'll be opportunities for you.
And yeah, so a question I'll pop in the chat as well. Yeah, when is everyone looking to head over to the UK? But yeah, and then we'll touch on the the visas now. So yeah, this is, I guess, one of the main questions we get asked. So yeah, there's a few different types of visas. The most common visa, I guess, that lots of people go over on is the Youth Mobility Scheme visa. That's what I went over on. I'm assuming is that what you went over on, Jack, too? The youth. I'm assuming. Yeah. So yeah, it's for anyone, Australian, New Zealand, or Canadian citizens can apply. You can apply for it before your 31st birthday, but that soon will be under 35. The Kiwi aspect of the scheme visa has all been accepted and coming into action at the end of June / start of July. But the Australian ones to be announced still, so hopefully not too far away. So yeah, it means 2 years to live and work in the UK. With that new change of the visa, it'll be up to 3 years as well, which is really exciting. There is a bit of a cost to it. You're paying for the application fee, but you're also paying, like we have Medicare here in Australia, and you have got the NHS over there. So you're paying for the healthcare surcharge over there. So the fees are all up there, and this will all be sent out to everyone as well afterwards. But yeah, you can apply for it 6 months out from arriving. It's pretty fast at the moment, I know, like a couple of weeks, which is great. So yeah, that's the most common visa. The other visa is also the ancestry visa. So that's someone, if you've got one or more grandparent that's born in the UK, it's a 5-year visa. There's no age cap on it, which is great. I've got a few friends who went over on that one, luckily. But yeah, again, still a cost in there as well. There is also the skilled worker visa that is essentially sponsorship. So it would have to come from school, which we can absolutely help with. Jack just placed a sponsored teacher recently to start over in London, which is awesome. And yeah, it's mostly secondary, like STEM subjects as well, but never say never. And yeah, that's the cost as well. And yeah, we have a visa team as well who can help with any questions that you might have, or we're happy to answer a few questions later on. But yeah, that's a super high level overview of the current ones we have. Anything else to add, Sid?
No, I think that was absolutely spot on. Yeah, just to say, there are certain schools across the UK that do offer that sort of sponsorship for those sort of sought after subjects. So if you fall within that sort of STEM remit, but you're outside the age range, then we can sort of work with you to discuss the schools that offer that and whether those areas are of interest to you across the UK.
Yeah, K, yeah, absolutely. If you have a British passport, you don't need a visa. It's a golden ticket, really. So yeah, good to go.
Brilliant. So yeah, look, touched upon this a little bit at the start, but the location options where we're based as a company. So we are in London, in our office here in London Bridge. We have an office down in Surrey, which is a county just outside of London, going down towards that sort of southwest corridor. We have an office in Bristol, which is on the Welsh border, and then we have an office in Newport in Wales, which is a lovely little seaside town quite close to Cardiff as well. We also support the regional Wales and regional England areas. Whilst we don't have a office there specifically, we have consultants that assist schools in those areas to look for work. So if it's something outside of the major cities you're looking for, and it's a permanent role or a longer term role, we can certainly assist with that as well.
Perfect.
So yeah, a little bit more, I suppose, in depth about our location options. So London, where Jack and I are presently, we're based out of our London Bridge office in the south of London. Lifestyle, it's the capital city of the United Kingdom, touch over 9 million people at present. It's a real sort of powder keg of things going on every single day. So if it's something where you're looking for culture and nightlife and a music scene, it's definitely the place to be. It's also an incredible hub, I suppose, for being able to travel around the rest of Europe as well. 3 major airports to take you anywhere you sort of want to go within Europe. The transport, I think, is absolutely fantastic. So the tube system has 9 different tube lines that run all through London, out west, south, north and east, and very easy to kind of navigate. We've chucked in a sort of an approximate around the rent cost there. So you're probably looking at around about £500 to £700 per month for a room in London, and £1,600 per month for a small studio and bedroom flat. And yeah, your day-to-day costs, a monthly pass for public transport is probably going to cost you about £158. Surrey is probably about 35 minutes outside of London, quite a leafy suburb in that sort of further southwest of London. Super easy, as the picture on the screen shows. Lots of people choose to say live in Surrey but still work in London schools, because it's a nice little sort of loophole in terms of finding slightly cheaper accommodation. If a big city is not for you and you prefer a slightly leafier suburb, that's what Surrey will offer, but you can also still work in the London schools. So 38 minutes into most central London stations from Surrey, meaning you can, I suppose, get the London rate at times for teaching roles, whilst also living somewhere that's slightly cheaper. So a little loophole that a lot of people look to do when they move over. So your rent's probably costing you maybe a couple of £100 less a month, which is definitely something to consider, but also super easy to get into London as well.
Absolutely.
In terms of our other location options, so Newport in Wales, which is a lovely little seaside town in the south of Wales. For those of you, I suppose, from especially sort of signing in from New South Wales, the beaches are slightly different comparatively to your North Shore and your eastern suburbs, but still lovely in their own way. Probably less for swimming, more for going to look at, but just a really sort of, lots of people choose Newport who are not keen on sort of a major city lifestyle, but really want to get a feel for what the UK is like. And it's beautiful, steeped in history, fantastic sort of transport links to other cities as well, like Bristol and Cardiff. Lots of sort of national parks in and around that area with, just incredible scenery. So definitely worth considering if the sort of city life's not for you. And the rent costs are a hell of a lot cheaper as well. So you're probably looking at about £250 per month for a room, and £700 per month for a 1 or 2 bedroom flat in Cardiff. So you can commute to Newport from Cardiff and vice versa. So that's what a lot of people tend to do as well. And your monthly pass and daily transport is a lot cheaper also. And the final place where we have an office is Bristol, probably one of my favorite places in the UK. I had a couple of mates who lived there during our university days. It's steeped in a fantastic music scene, great history. about 20 minutes outside of Bristol. You're really close to all the sort of Bristol national parks, the suspension bridge. It's it has a little bit of everything, I think, Bristol, and again, I wouldn't say a lot cheaper than London, because lots of people are cottoning on to how nice it is, but it is still that little bit cheaper. So your money in pocket would definitely be a little bit better living there, but fantastic transport links into London for those, if you want to go back in for a big event or to catch a flight, you can get a train from Bristol to London. It only takes about an hour and a half. So a really nice spot as well.
Yep. And we also have regional office locations as well, in terms of like being able to support for like more permanent or like long-term contracts. So yeah, something we can definitely discuss with you further as well. But yeah, quick question before we move on to the next slide. Yeah, where's everyone looking to live in the UK? And Emily, yes, it is easy to change location halfway through. Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
I've got an educator who's moved over recently, and yeah, they're kind of going to go through all the different office locations. So yeah.
Yeah, so traveling in public transport is like in London is so much easier, especially if you're from Sydney. You will not believe how much better it is. There's like tube stops, which are like essentially the train equivalent, that stop like every 10-minute walk away. So it's like so easy to get around by public transport or by foot. It's like, yeah, I'm staying in Tooting, which is like below the Claphams, if you know, that's where like a lot of Aussies live. And it's still only 15 minutes for me to get into the, by tube to get into the office, with about a 5-minute walk either side. Buses are pretty good as well. They can get you anywhere, but buses are really similar to what they are back in Melbourne or Sydney. They do take a little bit longer, but they are, quite a bit cheaper as well. Bike, everyone bikes here. Like it's really, really popular. There's bike lanes. It's will save you a lot of money as well on the tube. But yeah, and especially like coming into summer and spring and even autumn, like it's really good weather to be able to cycle in, and it's often sometimes quicker, depending on where you live, to get to your schools or workplace as well. Cars aren't overly used here, especially by expats, but I know like some people, I've got friends who just miss driving and just get one to drive, but you do need to pay an additional like car fee, or like to be able to drive that during the week and everything. But if you want a car, you can definitely get one. But I'd say like, it's a bit easier to drive if you're not driving through central London there. But like people do have cars here still, but you'd need to definitely look for a property that either has a like a council allowance to be able to have your car on site, or a garage.
Yeah, 100%. I've just mentioned, cars are probably more for those regional opportunities. And so I suppose if you're looking more sort of Bristol and Wales, that's when a car would definitely come more into its own slightly. The public transport links are still good, but they're not on the same, I suppose, level of efficiency as in London. I don't know. Lived in London for 27 years, and I didn't know anyone who owned a car because it's a lot of the time it can almost take as long to drive your car into work, and then you have to pay that little bit extra for parking, when the tube can get you there almost as quick. So I wouldn't recommend a car in London, but if you're going somewhere slightly more regional, then yeah, definitely worth it.
Yeah. Absolutely. And yeah, this is our Teaching the UK info pack. This is like our little Bible, I guess, for all things teaching and like working in the UK. This will be shared with everyone as well. So you just an FYI that we have it. It's got all your pre-departure and arrival information that you need. It's a wealth of information in there. So that will be shared with you. And yeah, this is our quick, I guess, like pre-departure checklist. So yeah, it's also in the information pack that we'll send out. But yeah, just a few things just to tick off as the time comes closer to you heading off and whatnot, like travel insurance, cleared for work, SIM card, everything. We've got so many resources available to you that we can have on our blog page as well. So super supported in that sense.
Finding somewhere to live. So I definitely recommend when you first get here, just booking an apartment or Airbnb or hostel for the first like 2 or 3 weeks, and and then I guess starting your search while you're here. Some people do lock in something before they move over, as that's like right for them. But I'd say like you definitely get a better feel for the area, and you can actually see the house in person or apartment is a lot better, and you'll be able to shop around a little bit better. Even if you can afford a 1-bedroom apartment, share house living is just so much better. If you're moving over solo, you get to meet a few different people, and you can always move into a 1 or 2-bedroom apartment later on. Most places over here, unlike at home, are already furnished as well, so you don't need to spend a couple thousand pounds on bed and all that stuff when you get here. And utility bills and everything do need to be paid by you, and aren't often included in the sublet. They'll definitely outline it if they are, but usually I would say they're not. Where to look for your share houses? So there's like Aussies and Kiwis in London. They are always posting stuff. Kiwis in London have a weekly flat post, which is usually on a Sunday night or Monday morning sometime like that. And there's, usually over 100 comments there. So definitely have a look at that as well. And they're, definitely like region specific ones as well. So there's even like a Southwest London one. There's a Clapham one as well, as I mentioned. There'll be a Surrey, Bristol, all those ones there that you just need to, type in and join. Spare room is a huge one too. So obviously like Aussies and Kiwis here will post on Aussies and Kiwis in London, but there's also heaps of people who are, British, who don't look on those pages, who'll post there as well. And if you do come to our events as well, you can group up with a few different people, and you can look on Rightmove, which is more like share houses that are vacant. So that's how I found my place. I got a 4-bedroom one through there, and we all moved in together with people who I didn't know prior to here. Spare room is more just like 1-bedroom places, so you'll be moving into like, it could be a 2-bedroom, could be a 5-6-bedroom place, and you'll just be moving in with a lease that's already going, and with people who are already living there with their group as well. I think like tips, as I mentioned, do plenty of research. Everyone seems to like want to move to the southwest, but there's also like so many opportunities in the like around Hackney, like Sid's area as well. And Hammersmith is also like southwest, like around the Chelsea region. It's becoming quite popular. And then the southeast around Brixton, awesome nightlife there, like really cool, very similar to I guess the inner west in Sydney vibes, and like really good nightlife, and similar to Melbourne in that sense as well. But it's just definitely growing in terms of people like Oz and Kiwis moving there. I guess really define like what you want to have in your share house. Like it can be a little bit of some people get it in their first week, some people takes a little bit longer. I wouldn't say jump at the first opportunity you get, unless it's perfect for you. These will the good share house will come for you, and you definitely want to be in a place where you feel comfortable, and really want to be living with these people or this area for 12 months, 18 months, like 24 months, etc. So definitely shop around a little bit. Don't say yes to the first one just because you feel like you won't be offered anything, but there's so many opportunities, and just view all the places you can and make a decision based on what's right for you.
Yeah, 100%. Just to follow on Jack's point there, that's why we've put at the top, thoroughly would recommend booking a hostel or a sublet or a short-term lease or an Airbnb initially, so you can go out and see as many areas as possible. Get a feel for because London could really be about 4 different cities in one. So each area has its own feel to it, and its own sort of positives. So, and that's individual for each person. So definitely worth getting yourself somewhere for a couple of weeks and go out and see as many of these different spots as possible.
Yeah, it's good to see like where your house can be, and based with like tube stations and transport as well, because that's key as well, I reckon, when I was looking for mine. But I found both mine through Kiwis in London, the Facebook group.
Yeah, I think like definitely touching on that, if you're like wanting to get a home before you want to work, or like want to find work before getting a home, it's like there's it's so well connected here. I would say like within an hour travel is probably standard. I know it's like a little bit easier back home with driving and how I guess where people live, but within an hour is like probably where you want to be. and you can definitely, even if you're living in the Eastern Hackney, you can still get to Hammersmith, which is, on the technically West London, within an hour. So it's very well connected. So I wouldn't say no to opportunities just because you're, wanting to live in X region, but because of how well it's connected, you can definitely get anywhere within an hour.
You can get from Highbury in North London to Brixton, which is very much South London, in about 15 minutes on the tube. So there are some lines that connect super easily. So even though it's a big city, the tube makes it very connectable and very straightforward.
Yeah, so work opportunities here. If you work with us in the Melbourne or Sydney office already, you may know like the Ready to Work at, there's day-to-day supply just as much as there is like over in those places. There is, ambassador opportunities as well. So like opportunities for guaranteed work, which is like really cool, where you can get like flight relocations too. If that's signed like pre-departure. If you're, if you are looking for supply, there's so many benefits to that. There's a flexibility to, work like 3 and 4 day weeks and take like 4-day weekends regularly. There's opportunities to see the schools, you haven't taught here before, you want to know what school's like, you can, teach in, Southwest London for a couple of days, and then the next week you can go up to Northeast London and see what the schools are like there and really try and test yourself and see, where do I want to sign a long term if that's what you're looking for. And, much like at home, you start in supply and then, school's like, oh, we've got opportunity for you. And then you can, go into a short block and then you go into a long-term or full-time position as well, as that moves on. Long-term contracts, so pay is a little bit better. So it's a little bit reversed, I guess, compared to back home, whereas long-term or, contract opportunities, you are actually paid for the extra hours that you need to do, I guess, like with marking and like pre-planning and everything. You do get to also be on a scale. So, if you're 1 year, you'll be on this M1 scale, and that'll change depending on if you're on inner, outer, or fringe of London. And you'll be paid to, I guess, the years that you've taught back home as well. You also get to become part of the school community, which is really cool. You get to like know the students and the staff that you're teaching in day out, and you're able to make like a really forming part of the community there. And you can also be a part of like out of school clubs as well, if that's something you're interested in too. Behavior management, obviously, same as back home. The more you get to know the kids, the better you're going to know how to manage a class, the better, they're going to be behaved for you. And, if you are, not looking to, just put, if you wanted to still develop your career, not that you can't do that in supply, but, there's always leadership opportunities as well that they're looking for too. So permanent contracts. So there's, I guess, 2 different ones. There's long-term, which is kind of like a temporary contract back home. And then there's permanent, which, is obviously the same. Permanent ones will be, I guess the salary will be outlined between the school and the teacher there, and you'll be more so through the school than through us, and not that, like, you won't have any contact with us, but it'll definitely be discussions more to do with them, you and the school there. And that's probably like what you're more looking for if you're looking for sponsorship opportunities, is that permanent contract as well. We've definitely seen some teachers go from day to day to long term who are now, going permanent after this academic year finishes. So, you can do all 3 within 12 months if that's something that you're looking for as well. So there's literally opportunities for whatever you're looking for. And it's very, very flexible based on you. You don't need to, pigeonhole yourself into one. You can say, look, I wanted long term and now I want supply, and you can do, vice versa too.
Yeah. Love it.
I'd say one other thing for long term as well. I think when people see long term, they sometimes think, that's going to be a commitment that's 6 to 9 months. A long term opportunity in the UK can be anything as small as a half term as well. So just something to consider in some of the contracts you get. You can sometimes get paid a long term rate for like a block that isn't particularly long term, but your pay rate will definitely increase as a result. So definitely something to keep in mind there. Cool. In terms of the types of schools we work with and the UK key stages, so I'll quickly run through the UK key stages first. So early years, anything from 0 to 3, and that covers nursery and reception. So nurseries are their sort of standalone, the equivalent of the early childhood centres across Australia, and reception classes are connected to primary schools. So reception would be usually 99 times out of 100 would be part of a primary school, but that's the entry level for sort of 4 to 5 year olds, and sometimes 3-year-olds as well, depending on the types of school. In terms of the key stages, so not massively dissimilar to in Australia. Key stages 1 and 2 make up primary school. So key stage 1 is year 1 and 2, and then they move from infants into the junior school, which fall under that sort of primary category. Key stage 2 is year 3 to 6. And then secondary school is key stages 3 through to 5. So key stage 3 is year 7 to 9. Key stage 4 is around the GCSE years. And then key stage 5 is year 12 and year 13, which is the A levels, which are the UK equivalent of the high school certificate age ranges. The types of schools we work with are on the board there. So again, a lot of these will be very similar to what you'd be used to, but I'll run through, I suppose, a couple that are slightly different to in Australia. So you've got your mainstream state and your private independent. Having worked in both countries, I definitely noticed moving to New South Wales that private and independent schools are a lot more sort of front row and centre. You'll find in the UK, the vast majority are mainstream state schools and academies that are non-fee paying schools. We also work with pupil referral units and special educational needs schools. So these are separate to a mainstream setting and work with students that either require a lot more sort of one-to-one support for special educational needs. So they will go to a separate school, and similar with pupil referral units with students who struggle within a mainstream setting and have slightly more required behaviour needs. So if your sort of background is within either special needs or behaviour schools, there's a greater, I think, opportunity across London and the other major cities to work specifically within those areas. But lots of the other ones you see there were fairly similar to in Australia. So yeah, co-ed. I would say that there is a vast majority more co-ed schools than single sex is the difference, I would say, as well in the UK. You do get single sex schools, but nowhere near as many as you would here in Australia. But faith schools, very similar to in Oz. The other two at the bottom there, community schools and borough council schools, they're still state schools, but their funding comes predominantly from their local council. So just slightly different in terms of funding, but from a teaching perspective, very, very similar.
Perfect. Sid.
Cool. So for support staff, LSAs, teaching assistants, there's a number of different names for them, but that goes from like early years foundation stage, so that's like EYFS, those looking at that, up to key stage 5. So if you want secondary, you want early primary, there's opportunities for you for sure. There's SEN, special education needs, and like PRU, which is a pupil referral unit, which Sid just touched on. There's one-to-ones, and much like back home, there will be these special education schools, there will be class sizes of 6 to 8. And you could be working one-to-one or part of like a team of like 2 or 3 teaching aides who may be within that particular class. There's also general classroom TAs, so you could be one TA with one teacher in a classroom of 20 odd students, and you could be working with small groups, and there's specialist TAs as well. So I had one up in Harrow, which is like far north London, that wanted a Punjabi speaking teaching assistant. There's also like language ones as well, like Spanish, or there could be like maths ones too. It really just depends on the school needs. Cover supervisor, which is an unqualified teacher. Now this can be a subject specific, or it also can be just as a supply teacher as well. So like these people can get long-term roles as well. but they're, in charge of the entire class. So it's, if that's something that you're interested in, definitely there's always need for that as well. And there's admin roles, there's science technician roles, which, you're working kind of like a teacher's aide in a sense that you're, not running the class, but you're working closely with the teacher. And often at time there will be, specialist positions there. There's groundskeeper, there's any role, like there's nurses, there's any role you can think of in a school that we can, find, we get asked to, find roles for.
Yeah. So if you've got any friends that don't have quite a job yet, or they want to do a bit of work in a classroom, then we can absolutely help as well. And we've got a referral bonus as well. So yeah.
Yeah, and also like one that's started to become popular as well is a school psychologist. So anyone with a psychology degree too. We've started seeing, definitely more interest from schools in the past 12, 18 months there. So pay rates, which I know like is probably at the front of everyone's mind, and relocation bonuses. Pay rates will, vary based on your experience there as well. Pay is probably like not as good as like supply as you would see in, Sydney or Melbourne. It's anywhere from like 145 pounds a day for your supply. And that's on a pay-as-you-earn contract. So there are two different ones here. Pay-as-you-earn is similar, exact same as how you get paid at home. You have your employer and they will pay you. Umbrella probably starts at around 165, 171 pounds a day. The reason why that's paid more is you go through a third party, and that can be helpful if you have a number of different streams of income. So you don't get taxed heavier, but you do pay part of your wage into that company for your, I guess for their services. So, definitely if you see like higher pay rates, just see if it's pay as you earn or umbrella before, signing up, as you may be on more or less, just depending on where that looks. Long-term roles, you'll be paid on the main teacher pay scale or the M scale, as I touched on earlier. Now, this pretty much goes up the same as you would see in Sydney or Melbourne or, New Zealand as well. If you're a first year teacher, you'll be on the lowest, second year, and so on and so forth. Leadership positions also get additional allowances there. Ambassador, which is like, something I would say, 70% of our teachers who come on supply sign up for. You get a £250 flight relocation bonus upon completing 60 days. On this, you get guaranteed work throughout the school term. And, even if we don't find you work, you'll get paid for that day. So that's, a really big incentive for you. And you're also, going into schools, and, usually the same schools, but sometimes it can be different as well. And you get that guaranteed work throughout the school term. Contract role, if you sign that before going into, before flying over, you get a £500 relocation bonus. So that's going to pay for, if you booked one-way flights, that's going to get like, most of that there as well. And it's the same after completing, 60 days or the one school term there too. So yeah, it's really good incentive for you to, get that as well. And it's only one term commitment too. So if you did want supply after that one term and wanted to get that £500, you can definitely just do that and then go back to supply, or, you can continue into that like contract or permanent or long-term gig as well. So, there's a lot of opportunities to get, guaranteed work and also a bit of money back in your pocket for flying over.
Perfect. Sid, do you want to talk about the community events? You're over there with our welcome events.
So I suppose how we look, so we have pre-departure events and events upon arrival. So for me, being based in Sydney, we look to run at least sort of bi-monthly events for educators about to head over in the next sort of 3 to 4 month period. And then in terms of arrival events in the UK, we look to run an event 3 times a year. So the one back in February, we ran and we had close to 100 educators turn up from across New Zealand and Australia. Some people who had, got off their flight 2 days before, others that had been in the UK for 2 or 3 months. It's a fantastic way of sort of networking, meeting like-minded educators, meeting people going through a similar journey to yourself. We've had loads of sort of great stories that have come out of it, of people who have made lifelong friends, made partners, made flatmates. It's a great way of networking with people who are going over and, lots of similarities in terms of their reasons for wanting to travel and that type of thing. So works really nicely in that regard. We have a Brick Brown Educator Facebook group, which is well worth joining. We're getting close to, how many have we got on there at the moment, Liv? Do you reckon? About
maybe 850, 900, maybe?
About 850 to 900 educators, those that have already arrived, those that are in the process, those that are looking to go over in 5-6 months. And it's just a fantastic, I suppose, community and chat for people to swap ideas, ask questions that either we can assist with or other educators who have recently made the journey can assist with. So very well worth joining that Facebook group for, just keeping, I suppose, being part of an online community. And again, it's been a great way of people making friends prior to arriving as well. So that's a little bit about our community and events.
Yeah. Awesome. And so we have a partnership with Kentucky as well. And we've got a competition running with them for the next couple of months, which is awesome. So all you need to do is post your travel picture. You might still be at home or you're already over there nearly. And use a hashtag going away with ANZUK. I know this month's voucher is $100 Airbnb voucher to win, which is awesome. So and we also have a 5% discount. I know I did a Kentucky when I moved over for a month. It was a great way to meet people, see lots of the sites and kind of get them ticked off before I settled in London as well. So it's a good option to do that too. But I guess why partner with ANZUK? We've got so many resources. We've got our blog, we have our LMS, which is like our learning module system, a Facebook group. Like I said, heaps of resources, information packs, blogs. It's all go. We have the events, the 360 support in terms of obviously based in New Zealand and Australia, consultants as well as in the UK. So when you do touch down, you can go into the office, grab a drink, grab a coffee, whatever it might be, and local and global opportunities as well. So whether you're looking to do a bit of supply teaching before you head off or when you come back as well. So we're at the end. If anyone has any questions, feel free to pop them through in the chat or you turn your mic off and you can ask us. We'll be around for the next 5 to 10 minutes, I guess. Thanks for joining, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
We'll be sending a follow-up email tomorrow or Friday just with links, and there'll be a form you can fill out as well, just with a bit more info, and we'll be in touch.
Nice.
Thank you.
Oh, go on. Sorry.
Thanks.
I'll answer Emily's question. Emily, it's a question we definitely get a fair bit. So no, we don't. In terms of, I suppose, how we make our money, we don't take any commission or any cut of teachers' pay. You would be paid exactly the same scale as if you had found the role directly. We make our money by putting a sort of small charge rate towards the school as a sort of finder's fee for helping them source a role for, like, in this case, would be like an overseas educator.
Cool. And also, do you, are we locked into a contract or forever, are we locked into something, or is it very flexible to move around and do other things?
If I suppose if you were to take on a long-term role as an example, we would ask, obviously, if you could provide as much notice period as possible, because where you'd be taking on full-time classes, the requirement would be as much as possible. We totally understand that circumstances change, and if there's a role that you're really not enjoying, we would look to support you through that transition as much as possible. But similar with, I suppose, any roles that, if you can give as much notice to us in the school, that would allow us to try and source a replacement for the school so that the student's education doesn't get affected in the meantime. Yeah. No, you're not.
I just mean with your company. Not so much the school, just the actual company.
No.
There's like contracts that you have to sign
not
with
at all.
ANZ UK.
If you wanted to, so it's taking the ambassador contract as an example. So because that's a guaranteed work scheme, what we are offering as a result of that is that any day that we can't provide you a day of supply, we will still pay you for anyway. Now, the reason we, I suppose, offer that at the moment is we're very aware with the London market and just the UK supply market in general that it's going to be highly unlikely that you're going to be having many days where we can't find you a day of supply, just given how busy the schools are over there at the moment. So yeah, it's not locked in terms of what we ask that you work through us for that period. But if you're absolutely non-committal to sign the ambassador contract, you can work through us and work through other agencies as well, if that's what you would prefer. It's completely up to you. Let's have a look. Anne's asked, are there many leadership opportunities for experienced teachers? Yeah, definitely. Similar to, I think, in New South Wales and Queensland and in Victoria. If you're an experienced teacher, especially within a sort of sought after subject, there's plenty of leadership roles at the moment, if that was something you were looking for.
Yeah. I think, Elizabeth, you had your hand up.
Yes.
Yeah, it seems from this presentation that this may be directed to younger people. Is it open to people of around my age? Because we don't fall under the first category of obtaining visas. We fall under the skilled workers.
So it is trickier in terms of if you haven't got the option to utilize the youth mobility visa or the ancestry visa, or some people have a family connections or British passport in that regard. What you would be looking for then is a skilled worker visa. Now that is very much the skilled worker visa is very much sort of out of our hands in terms of it depends on the schools that offer that sponsorship and whether the skill set that you would be able to offer is what they would want to pay a skilled worker visa for. Obviously, similar to schools in Australia, any school that has a skilled worker or a sponsorship license pays for that as like an annually subscription. So they would utilize that on, I don't know, a subject that they've found very difficult to source through the sort of UK market. So off the top of my head, similar with a physics teacher, for example, are few and far between across, well, over the world really. So I know lots of schools that would look to sponsor if that was the background, for example. It's basically whatever the shortage of experience is what's the most likely for the sponsorship to occur.
Right, okay. All right, well, thanks for answering that.
No worries, absolutely fine.
All right.
So
I have another question.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Sorry, what is it like I'm a qualified teacher, but for my partner who isn't a qualified teacher, I saw that you touched on there's opportunities for people that aren't qualified. Is a groundskeeper the same as like a general assistant in Australia?
No, so a groundskeeper would be more for that's more of a sort of caretaker role. But in terms of assistant works within UK schools, there's plenty of, you would have sort of like general teaching assistant roles, cover supervisor roles, which Jack touched upon, which would be where you're basically in charge of the class, but you're not teaching. The work will be set by the classroom teacher, who might be on leave or sickness, but there would be work set and it's just yourself covering the class. Now you don't need to be a qualified teacher for that role. It's just, I suppose they're looking for people who feel, I suppose, secure with elements like behavior management, for example, or that type of thing. So there are plenty of roles available for those that aren't qualified teachers within schools. Definitely. And
the pay is just less because they aren't qualified. And
Absolutely.
what is the pay like off the top of your head for that?
It varies depending on what part of the country you'd be planning on living. If you were looking at London, for example, and Jack, you might be able to help me out slightly better than this. I think it was around about that sort of £90 to £95 mark, Jack?
Yeah,
right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, probably around about £90 to £95 a day.
Cool, thank you.
No worries. So April, in terms of your question, what does the ambassador program involve? Simply put, it's a sort of a guaranteed work scheme for what we offer to our teachers. We also encourage those as part of the ambassador program to look to come along to as many of our events as they want to, and look to, I suppose, utilize posting pictures on sort of socials or whatnot, but they're not requirements per se, but it's just something that sort of comes under it. Kay, in terms of your question, can we nominate the types of schools we would prefer? Absolutely. I would just sort of keep in mind if your preference is independent and private schools, as a company in the UK, given what the UK teaching market's like, there are a lot less private and independent schools. So there will, as a result, probably be a lot less opportunities within those sectors. Predominantly in London, as an example, we work predominantly with state funded schools.
I've been putting a few links in as well.
Yeah, I've seen that. Thank you.
For people. So there's heaps of blogs we've written up kind of around lots of things. So yeah.
In terms of the Cota's question around conditions for teachers in contracts, if you're in a long-term contract, for all intents and purposes, even though you're working through ANZ UK, you will be you would be treated as if you were a full-time member of staff at the school. So your I suppose your timetable would definitely have release time. You would definitely have periods where you're not on class. Depending on the school, you might be put on a sort of supply rota occasionally, but not that often. It would be similar to working a full-time role here. The expectations, I suppose, around planning and marking, potentially having to assist with parents' evenings, those type of things. But as Jack touched upon in the presentation, your pay rate would reflect that. No worries. Have we missed any? And as Liv's touched upon, she's put a couple of really useful blogs into the chat around sort of the ambassador program, around visa options whilst moving to the UK. And we really recommend having a look at our blog page in general, because there's lots of articles written on there that touches upon a lot of what we have in this presentation, but probably in a little bit more detail for each specific.
And the information pack I've touched on before as well, that has links to everything as well. So it probably goes into a lot more detail than what we're the blog might do, for example.
Absolutely.
But any other questions at all? Or
did you say you were going to send a follow-up email, and then we can just get in touch and so what we'll do is, exactly, pretty much. So we'll you can book a call in with us, so we'll have our photos on it. There'll be me, Tyler, I'm not sure, maybe Sid's he's in the UK for the next 2 weeks. But you can definitely, because we're all done by state and in New Zealand as well. But the email will kind of outline it. We'll have the recording of this as well, and the information pack, and links to kind of everything as well. So they'll be sent out by end of the week. So when are you heading over, Emily? Thank you so much. Okay.
When are you heading over?
Thinking of getting to London in September.
Oh, epic. It's a good time.
Yeah.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure we'll be in touch soon.
Cool. All right. Thank you so much.
No worries. Thank you guys. Thank you for joining. I hope everyone enjoys their day, evenings, wherever you're tuning in from. And look forward to, I suppose, chatting to all of you, hopefully on a more one-to-one basis, and getting the ball rolling in terms of heading over to the UK. Have a good one.
Exciting times.
Cheers, guys.